the hardest things, like throughout this whole MenuSano journey? What do you think is the hardest thing that you had to go through?
I think it was proving that we had something that was legitimate, proving that we have a product that could create social impact. Like when we first developed MenuSano, we had a door closed on our face over and over and over again. When I get up in the morning and I come to work, I don't look at it as work. I love making a difference, whether it's for women in tech or providing technology that is disruptive and is changing the world. Really, I enjoy the fact that I can do something that has an impact in so many different areas and will only grow and get bigger.
Hi everyone, welcome to our live today. My name is Christine Billinger. I'm the Director of Product Management for MenuSano, and today I'm going to be talking about the new front of package nutrition labeling that is happening now in Canada. Let's get started. So everywhere pretty soon in the next couple of years, we're going to be going around the grocery store and we're going to start seeing these front of package symbols that are going to indicate if something is high in saturated fat, sugars, or sodium. Before I get into this topic further, of course, I have to give a plug about MenuSano. MenuSano is a nutrition analysis software for the food and beverage industry. What it allows you to do is to enter in your recipes and formulas to calculate their nutritional content, and you can generate a compliant nutrition fact table for Canada, the US, or the UK. There's also a recipe costing function in MenuSano, which allows you to engineer your menu for profitability. So starting off with the front of package symbols, and why does Health Canada want us to start using these? So they're essentially just designed to provide consumers, a clear identification of whether something is high in these nutrients. And it allows them to make informed decisions for themselves, based on the kind of foods that they should be eating based on their health. The overarching theme here, of course, is that Health Canada wants to reduce the healthcare bill. So we know that when we eat foods that are high in saturated fats, sugars, or sodium, there are health consequences. Such as obesity, cardiovascular disease, and stroke. These are very costly to the Canadian government. So they're looking for ways to reduce this overall cost. Deadline for the compliance. So even though it is in effect right now, the manufacturers, you have until January 1st of 2026 to fully comply with all the requirements. And the good news is that if you have product that is sitting in your warehouse, and as long as it was manufactured or imported and packaged before January 1st, 2026, you can still sell those items on store shelves. Of course, anything produced after that date is going to potentially require that front of package symbol if it meets the criteria of needing one. So it's going to be required for most prepackaged foods sold in Canada, and including those foods that are imported into Canada as well. We'll need to display them. There are going to be certain types of foods that will always be exempt from displaying this symbol, and some that are actually prohibited. So in the case of exemption, it is always voluntary that if you want to display this symbol on your packaging. So I'm going to be giving a list of foods that are exempt from it. So I'm not going to read through them all. This presentation will be available on the MenuSano Knowledge Center after this presentation. So you can go there afterwards and get some more information about which products are exempt. But we're looking at products that are, say, for example, they have a very small surface area, so individually wrapped candies, for example. Other examples would be like prepackaged crackers that you would serve alongside of soup, or creamers that come with coffee. So these kinds of things will be exempt. Things that are like sugar or honey. So if you manufacture these products, you will also be exempt from displaying that front of package labeling. In the same fashion, salt would be another example of that. And in the fats and oils category, things like a brick of butter or a tub of margarine. So there are going to be certain foods that are exempt from ever having to display this. And then we also have some foods that are just prohibited. So infant formula, foods that are intended for infants 6 months to 1 year of age, nutritional supplements, or meal replacements. So here we have some examples of the front of package symbol. This is not all of them, but this is a good sampling of them. And they'll always have a statement that says high in. They will always display a magnifying glass, and they could be unilingual or bilingual, so French only, English only, or bilingual French and English. They'll be black and white, so these are not going to be colorful symbols, and they are specifically for sodium, saturated fats, and sugars. So how do I know if I need to put this on my package? So it depends on the daily values of the sodium, saturated fats, and sugars, and whether or not they are above or below a certain threshold. And you have to calculate this based on either the servings, the stated serving size, or the reference amount. So you have to use whichever one of those is greater. So in case you're not sure about what is the reference or the serving size for my product, it's available on the CFIA website. So they have a page there called the Table Reference Amounts of Foods. And I'm including this link here that you can access after the presentation today. Also, a quick Google search will land you on this page as well. So on this page, there's going to be a list of product definitions. So you'll go through and you'll see, okay, is my product considered a bakery product? Is it a beverage? Is it a snack? So identify the product definition category that makes sense for you. And once you land on that page, you're going to have to sift through a few more categories potentially to find your product. So I'm going to use the example of sliced bread. So sliced bread on the CFIA website has a reference amount of 75 grams, and the serving size is the weight of 2 slices of bread in grams. So if I weigh 2 slices of bread and it ends up being 120 grams, that means that my serving size is higher than the reference amount of 75 grams. If I weigh it and it's 2 slices of bread and it's 70 grams, then now my reference amount is higher. So that will help me decide which one is higher and which one I need to use to calculate the percent daily value to identify if it's above or below the threshold. For most packaged foods, the threshold for daily value that's going to trigger the need to put the symbol on the front of your package is going to be if it is greater than or equal to 15% of the applicable daily value. So if you're an adult, the daily value for sodium is 2,300 milligrams. So if you had a product and per serving it was 389 milligrams, your daily value is going to be 17%. And because that is higher than 15%, it would trigger the requirement for a front of package warning. Of course, there are going to be exemptions. So if it is a prepackaged product where the reference amount is quite small, like less than 30 grams or 30 milliliters, then the threshold changes to 10% of the applicable daily value. And in the case of prepackaged main dishes, there's different requirements or criteria there as well. So if it is something for children, 1 to 4 years, versus just for adults, so 5 years plus. And the next example I'm going to use is going to be in the case for adults where the threshold is going to be greater than or equal to 30% of the applicable DB. The example that I'm using is actually a prepackaged lasagna, which is considered a prepackaged main dish. Here we have a nutrition fact label for a lasagna. So it's sold in a tray, and what's sold in this tray is considered like you would eat the full tray in one sitting. So a whole package is a serving size and its weight is 227 grams. However, the reference amount for lasagna is 300 grams. So now I know that I need to base my calculations on the reference amount rather than the serving size because it's higher. So I'm going to have to do an extra step of converting because on this nutrition fact label that I see here, it is all done per serving size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find, for example, I'll just use the example of sodium. Sodium is 580 milligrams. Divide it by the 227 gram serving size, and then multiply it by 300, which is the reference amount, and it gives me this value, 766.52. So now, once I do that exercise for the sugars and the saturated fats, then I can, compare it to the threshold limits to see if I'm going to need a front of package warning. So my saturated fat, the percent DV ends up being 33.05. So it's higher than 30%. So that triggers that I'm going to have to put that on the front of the label, on the front of the packaging. The sugar is quite low. It's 1.32%. So that's out. Don't have to worry about that. And then the sodium is also higher than 30%. So that is going to trigger the need to put that on the front of package symbol. So for this lasagna, it should have a front of package symbol that is going to say high in saturated fats and sodium. So that gives you a kind of an overview of the front of package symbol that is now going to be required for a lot of food packaging in Canada. Here is a reference for you for the CFIA website that's going to give you more information on that. It will include a lot more details, even things like, how big does that symbol need to be based on the display surface area of my packaging, and a lot more examples and calculations. So again, this will be available after the live on our Knowledge Center. And I want to thank you for joining us today. And please, ask questions or leave a comment. And thank you so much for your time today.